I was watching Flawless the other night on Netflix. I had some streaming video to my Xbox, which is really cool. And I thought it was worth making a video about. I really enjoyed the film. It was quite intriguing. It was slow-paced, but quite intriguing. Now, Demi Moore, she was born actually in 1962, and she plays a slightly younger woman in this film. They mentioned her age in the film, so I had to check out that she was, in fact, born in 1962. Well, anyway, it's not really a problem. I just thought that was interesting. She carries this part with class and style. However, her part is not really written for much acting. You know, the part plays itself, basically. Now, Michael Caine, he's always good in everything that he's in, even though he's like 100 million years old. This guy's an actor. He's a professional actor, if you didn't know that. And when I think of him, I always get a chuckle in the movie Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. You have to see that. If you're depressed, go and see Dirty Rotten Scoundrels right now. Put the thing on pause and go see the movie and come back. We can pick up the review later. No, I'm kidding. It's a really good film. Now, Lambert Wilson, I wanted to mention his name. He's in this film. They have Nathaniel Parker, Nicholas Jones, and John Ackland. But Lambert Wilson, when I think of him, I think of The Matrix. He played a really cool guy in The Matrix. And he has debonair and class. He had a good part in this film, except it required him to suck up. And I don't like it that he had to do that, but he did it quite well. Anyway, this movie, it takes place in 1960, I think. It's in the 1960s for sure. It has to do with the London Diamond Corporation. The London Diamond Corporation is basically a bunch of male dog-eat-dog, I would rather step on you than look at you type people. And we find that these rich elitist mentalities actually caused the plots of Demi Moore and Michael Caine to attempt to rob the unrobbable place. Yeah, you know, it's an Ocean's 11 from the 1960s, but much slower paced. Anyway, so that's one of the things I wanted to point out, is the elite class with their dog-eat-dog motivation. They actually create the motivations of the characters of Demi and Michael to rob them. Pretty interesting. Another thing that's really interesting about this film is the archaic technology. I mean, this takes place in 1960, so their advanced technology back then was the dialing phone. But it's really, I laugh whenever I see those things, and I thank God for the internet and cell phones. You know, they have the typewriters where you actually have to bang out the keys, and they have these cameras that are just like, you know, huge, and they show a flashlight that weighs like 50 pounds with a big battery. I just got a chuckle out of seeing those things. Anyway, hopefully you will too. Now, as far as the life lessons, there's a few in this film. And the first one I picked up was discrimination breeds hatred. Discrimination breeds hatred. Now, discrimination, even though it seems to be socially acceptable on the surface, it has an ethical and moral undercurrent that eventually reveals its head, like Rosa Parks when she went up to the front of the bus. You know, thank God she did that. In this movie, there is a discrimination against Demi's character, which that eats away at her and causes her motivation to want to rob the unrobbable jewelry place. It's unjustified in the big picture, and it's wrong. But anyway, discrimination breeds hatred. Now, another life lesson that I picked up on this film, which was simple, is simply to run from temptation. Run from temptation. Now, when evil tempts, you got to run the other way. Evil will always find a way to motivate us to get even with people, and it will manufacture or find reasons for us to do wrong in order to justify another wrong. In other words, two wrongs do not a right make. I think they even say that in the film. Anyway, if we immediately stop thinking about the temptation that we're being faced with, then we won't get ourselves into trouble. I think Martin Luther, the father of the Protestant Reformation, he said something like, it's okay, you know, temptation is like the birds flying over your head. I mean, you know, it's going to come, but it's your responsibility to not let them nest in your hair. Okay, so don't let these evil thoughts take root and land in your hair and make a nest. Run from temptation. Be aware of intended distractions. In other words, don't keep your eye on the birdie. When someone says, keep your eye on the birdie, they're actually trying to steal your wallet or to fool you. They're trying to misdirect us. For example, in the media, we're distracted from the real problems with the fake problems that they want us to pay attention to. Okay? There's atrocities that aren't reported because simply they just don't want us to know about them and so forth. You know, first off, don't pay attention to the media anyway. It's the birdie. And this film has a keep your eye on the birdie aspect to it. You'll see it. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll catch what I'm saying. And I just wanted to point that out, that is a plot used by our enemies. So be aware of intended distractions. Think outside the box, or question axioms. Now there is a howdunit to this film, and we find out that one of the characters will come closer to finding the diamonds if they can find out how they were taken. Now, an accidental incident arises in this film which causes one of the characters to think outside of the box. This thinking pays off. Some of the things that we used to take for granted, like the earth is flat or the sun revolves around the earth, this thinking was changed by people who dared to question the axioms or the argumentum ad populum, or the popular argument, whatever you want to call it. They weren't popular at the time. They were actually scared to come out with these revelations. However, we read about those people now, like Copernicus. Greed runs the world. Now, one of the main lessons that's very easily picked up in this film is that pretty much everyone is motivated by greed. Only one person in this film has a motivation stronger than greed, it would appear. However, this person understands that the world serves mammon, and he uses it to his advantage to seek revenge. Now, if you examine this character, it's the main character, Michael Caine, you'll see that in the long run that even his greed is exposed, and that his revenge fails at any attempt to be noble, because you can see he does actually have a motivation of greed. So, greed runs the world. Now, as far as a rating, this was a very plot-driven film, and for those of you that need to know, there's no violence and there's no sex scenes. This film didn't require that. It was a good film. It was aimed at a sophisticated audience. It was not aimed at a juvenile audience. It requires butt jokes. Okay. It was written very well, and it was really interesting to watch how it held true to the period of the 1960s. Oh yeah, it has a great jazz soundtrack too. I might buy that soundtrack. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and give it a B+. I urge you to see the film because I think it's really good. It just doesn't quite get an A. And one of the things I'm kind of sad about is I've noticed that a lot of films that are coming out, they're appealing to the darker nature that we have inside of us to actually root for the bad guys. I think that's showing us where we on planet Earth are headed. Till we meet again, dig deeper, go higher, go higher, go higher, go higher.